This is the first talk of the April 2002 7-day retreat in Springwater. It's another beautiful day, full of light and fresh air, cool and crisp, and yet warm in the sunshine. Walking down to the creek, watching it, hearing it splatter and splash over the rocks. On and on and on, moving, foaming, running. Actually, in thinking about it, it isn't running anywhere. It is not rushing to get someplace. It's sputtering and foaming because the ground is tilted. So it runs down the incline. And yet when there is a flat spot, level, its movement stops. Just gathering in a clear little pond, reflecting the trees above and the sound of the airplane. Thinking some more about this, it seems that we human beings, at least in this present Western world, are constantly rushing. Maybe rushing toward this goal or that goal, wanting to become this or achieve that. But basically it is just a deep, deep program. Needing to do things, to get someplace. What place is secondary as far as the depth of this rushing program is concerned? Are you looking yourself? Is there this moment, the movement toward something, away from something? Feeling I ought to do something, get someplace. Maybe not right now, because we're sitting here in a very, very quiet, beautiful, open place. And someone is talking about rushing. And also maybe finding a spot within us where the rushing can come to a stop. A limpid pool, as it were, of no purpose, no aim, no motive to move it. For a moment, this moment, no wind stirring it. Is there no wind stirring? The wind of I should meet expectations. Am I doing right? That's the wind fanning the surface of the mind. Sometimes superficially, sometimes very deeply. Am I doing right? How am I doing? This need to reflect upon one's actions, one's behavior, deeply programmed into all of us, no exception. Do they like me? Are they my friends or are they my enemies? So, the question arises, how to deal with this perpetual motion, movement, stress we call it these days. Not just in this country. The word stress has been totally incorporated into German. People talking about being stressed out. I think I heard it first over there. Oh, people in the same rush. Always too much to do. Too little time to do it. And always thinking of the next thing we have to do. Are you with me? Are we together? There's one moment of no need to think about the next thing. Because there is no next thing except in fantasy. There's only this moment of listening. Are we listening together? Maybe to whatever programs stir this body-mind. Ideas, vague feelings, unconscious stuff. Only the smallest part of what we know about ourselves and the world is conscious. Most of it is not conscious. Things happen without our quote-unquote knowing about it. So, this moment here, this incredibly precious moment of sitting together in a place with plants rushing down the wall. Oh, they're not rushing, they're just there. The mind says they're cascading. They're not. And the tops are lit by sunshine. Their growth is imperceptible and yet very noticeable when you haven't been here for a while. What's happening to these plants? So, beautiful place, lovely weather. People from all over coming here together, maybe not having ever met, sitting in silence. Inward. Actually, there is no outward and inward. These are just words. So, inward meaning aware of what is going on for moments at a time in this body-mind. And what we're focusing on right now is motion, toward, away, guilt, expectation. These are all movements which we can't help. They happen. We can't help anything because there is no we. There's only motion. And the possibility, this amazing possibility for you and me to become aware of it. Not trying to change it or stop it, but awareing motion toward, away from, running or trying to put on the brakes, watching it all, awareing, listening to it, listening to how this body manifests its programs with tension, all kinds of chemicals excreted. At night, when I'm awake, maybe there's this quietness, stillness. And then one thought arising. It doesn't take two. There may be more than, but one is enough, of something that ought to be done, that I forgot to do or should be doing. One thought. And the heart starts beating faster. Probably to get the blood, the oxygen going, for the body to jump into action. Which is not the sleeping mode. It's movement. Movement in the mind towards something to be done, imagining it, remembering it, and this whole body mobilized into potential action. And yet, the possibility to aware it all. Quietly. Quietly, just meaning no judgment. Not this is right or wrong, I shouldn't have had that thought. It's such a ridiculous thought, I shouldn't have had that thought. It has just happened. To think it shouldn't have happened is futile, but stirs up more emotion. Emotion meaning in motion. Moving the organs, stomach, intestines, you feel it. I don't have to name it all. It's for each one of us to watch in amazement without needing to think it shouldn't be like this, because it is like this. Do we get that? It's so important to get that. Our constant thinking about what is observed, that it shouldn't be like that. It should be different. I should be different. I shouldn't do that. Or they shouldn't do that to me. Watch it all. Let the awareness draw wider and wider circles, as it were. Taking it all in. For no purpose other than this is what's happening right now. And the conditioned body-mind wanting to oppose it. It was such a, I don't know what word to put for it. Something is happening in this body due to physical, mental movements, and then the physical, mental movement, it shouldn't happen this way. It's amazing, isn't it? We have to notice that and wonder about it. Why? Not the psychoanalytic why, but the momentary why. Why? Meaning, let's watch it some more. Let's watch it over and over again as it happens. Something happening, and the instant attitude, it shouldn't happen like that. And fantasizing about how it should be, how they should be, how I should be. And with that curtain of fantasy not in touch with a simple reality. Of thinking how I should be, rather than awareing how I am, my attitudes, my thoughts, maybe angry thoughts or desiring thoughts, violent thoughts or loving thoughts. Just let it all come and go. Is that possible? Don't say, no, it's impossible. And just to say, yes, it's possible is not enough either. It needs to happen. Watching without judgment, including the judgments that have arisen or want to arise, including them in the awareness. So the movement of judgment dries out for a moment. This moment of being here without knowing what's next. Do you know what's next? I don't. The movement of knowing is not active. It's not activated. It's just listening here. Are we listening here? Meaning no expectations. That's already a mindset. The mindset of expecting something, for Toni to say, is not openness. Do you see that? Let's take a moment. If I expect to hear something, maybe to invigorate me or to make me feel better, wiser, you look whether there is expectation in the mind and see how it limits and focuses the mind toward something imagined. And with that, there's not the openness, the vulnerable, unprotected openness of hearing what's being said. Maybe not understanding it, that's all right. It's particularly all right if it sort of lingers in the mind, nags something you don't understand right now. You can't see it. Sometimes people say, as you see me, I can't see anything about myself. I'm numb. Seem to be blind. I don't detect anything. That's what people say, although that's probably not even true. We feel and aware much more than we think. But let's say there is this feeling of numbness. Let it be. Wonder about it. Don't know what it means to see clearly. Don't know what it means to be transparent to the movement of thought and emotion. But wonder what it could mean. In other words, take it somewhat seriously, not just dismiss it out of hand. She's talking about something that doesn't happen to most people, is a common thought, isn't it? I've been doing this for umpteen years, it's never happened to me. Beware of such thoughts. They're not helpful. They're not true. Let them go. So, listening does not necessarily mean understanding. It just means the openness of hearing without knowing. And at the same time, wondering whether what is being said is really so. Because unless we see for ourselves the truth or falseness of what is being said, it's no good just remembering the words. We can all repeat words that others have said. and maybe feel that we're very knowing or erudite, have understanding. Very difficult to discern what is intellectual understanding, verbal understanding, and directly seeing a thought arise and arouse whatever, emotion or the drive for action, the heart beating faster. And realizing no one is doing it, it is happening on its own. In an amazing way. Maybe wondering who is doing it, because this is what we want to find out. Who am I? Who is doing this thinking? Who is the thinker? If that's a question that is alive for you, pursue it. Let it lead you on in its own way. If it's alive and coming from a deep urgency to find out, to understand, then any question is very helpful. You can also turn it around somewhat and ask, is there a thinker? Who is thinking is one question. Or is there a thinker at all? Or are there just thoughts? Is the thinker itself a thought? A thought, I am the thinker. I am the hearer of that airplane. Or is it just humming along? No one doing the hearing. It's not even hearing it. It's here, isn't it? Am I talking too fast? So, what is stuffing up the listening mind so it doesn't hear freely, correctly, accurately? Either understanding what is heard or not understanding it, and in not understanding it, wondering about it, and letting questions arise. What does it mean that expectation limits the hearing or seeing? What does that mean? Which means at a moment when expectations run high, watch it. There's a moment of becoming aware. You are not doing it, it happens. A moment of attention, coming to, I sometimes call it. And hearing oneself buzzing with expectation of what one wants to have or hear or experience. And is the body-mind going with that expectation fed by fantasy of what it can get? Or in this coming to for a moment, watching a body-mind buzzing with expectation. Not pursuing the fantasy goal, but listening to the hum of this motor running. Running with expectation. Or running with comparison. That's another big obstruction. In seeing, in listening. if this mode of the brain to compare myself with others or with ideals, if that is active, I can't listen. Because there's involvement in how do I compare to him or her. And it's not just a simple factual comparison for us most of the time. It's loaded with emotion, maybe jealousy, or feelings of inferiority, putting oneself down or putting the others down. Watch it. You don't have to watch drama on the stage. It's all happening here. The drama of myself in constant comparison. Does it let up at times? Or is that gauging also deeply conditioned? At least here in this world in which we grow up. I don't know how it is in distant countries where I've not been. Although when you read the spiritual texts that issue from the East, that's very similar. Very similar. What comes to mind right now is this beautiful section where Huineng, the sixth patriarch who lived 1,300 years ago in China, and he discussed with his monks, maybe there were also lay people there, I'm quite sure he was very open, wanted everybody to come in here, get in touch with this thing of knowing oneself. And coming to the vow, which many of us have taken in Buddhism, you vow, the 4 vows. And if you practice at a center or in your group, you say these vows at least once a day or at night. The first vow is, and formulated differently at different places, I vow to become enlightened for the sake of all living beings. Or I vow to liberate all sentient beings. Which, if you don't just get into the mode of repeating doggedly what you're supposed to say, and you begin to wonder, my God, how can I ever vow to deliver all sentient beings? It's preposterous. And the sixth patriarch, in discussing this, says, who are these sentient beings that we vow to deliver? They are the jealous beings, the envious beings, the comparing beings, the lustful beings in my mind. Not out there. Let's see what beings swarm around in this incredible brain that can imagine things, it can imagine beings. I haven't seen this movie yet, but it won all kinds of prizes, The Beautiful Mind. Was that the name, A Beautiful Mind? Yeah. This sick man imagining beings all over the place. That's not what the sixth patriarch is proposing, to now start imagining these beings that I'm going to liberate. But to become aware of jealousy, comparison, expectation, judgment, to see. That's all that's needed. Not to liberate, to fight, to exterminate, to conquer, but to see. see emotion of jealousy arising about another person. I don't have to paint it all. It's there for each one of us to see as it arises, and make no more of it than what it already is. See it in its entirety. When that happens, the jealous thought seen from beginning to end, not stopping somewhere in the middle and veering off, which happens most of the time. But this is what partly doing retreat helps. It helps to stick with observing something, even though it's unpleasant. Doesn't conform to my image of being a non-jealous person or a non-envious person. Somebody who doesn't want anything. This is the image, the ideal. And then when we see our envy or wanting things, it's usually squished or denied. We don't want to see it because we're attached to our image. And that causes all of our conflicts, our contortions in responding, in talking, in reacting. Just for the simple reason of not seeing envious thoughts arising without judgment. If we stick with it from beginning to end, it dissipates. The seeing is stronger than the conditioned movements of this body-mind. Far stronger. No comparison. We've gone far on day one. Are we together? Oh, tired still. I didn't even talk about that last night. One thing I forgot. Sleep and tiredness. I usually say that. It's important for people to hear that it's all right to be tired. It's all right to sleep. Particularly if you can sleep. Blessed are the sleepers. So, not to feel guilty, but turning in early or during the day and taking a nap, sleeping in. Just watch it. Do these guilty thoughts arise? I ought to be one of the people in there, but I wasn't. What a shame. Watch it all. The whole spectacle. People are tired when they come to retreat for 10,000 reasons. Some people tell me they had to work ahead in their offices to be able to make this time. Or prepare food, put it in the refrigerator for the family who, when one comes home, one finds out they didn't even eat it. They went out. But we're worn out from it. And then having very few people, I just heard that again the other day in the news, very few people get the right amount of sleep. Most people are underslept for various reasons. So coming here, all of a sudden, the burden of what you have to do, have to accomplish is gone, and so is the television, radio, all the telephone calls with friends. It's all diminished or totally absent. And the body is addicted to that stuff. It needs that stimulation. When it doesn't come, it sort of goes through a period of withdrawal. Recognize that this is what the body is going through. Don't worry about it. Stay with however this feels without judging it. You may find after a few days you're less tired because we're sticking with things, not denying them, not trying to moan or mourn the absence of whatever we had. Be with how it feels now and make no story about it. Or if the brain is already into it, watch it with a smile. The constant spinning of stories about me. Listen to it, watch it. And in this being with what's going on in yourself, the energy rises, gathers. And with this gathering of energy, there's less sleepiness eventually, sooner or later. You may find on day 6 you can hardly sleep at all, maybe already on day 1. It's different for different people. So not to put yourself down for being tired, and yet also not to take tiredness completely seriously, because hidden underneath the tiredness may be a great pool of energy. We know that when we're too tired for words at night and somebody calls whom you like, and all of a sudden the words are there. The person says, could I come over? And you say, yeah, let's have a cup of tea and cookies. I just had that happen here recently after a retreat or something. I had forgotten something here. Oh, medication. It was late and I was so exhausted. I wouldn't have wanted to talk to anybody, but a dear person brought that stuff, came to the center, drove to my house and brought it. And I said, would you like to come in for a cup of tea? And he said, yes, I would. So here we had tea and cookies. And it was okay, it was all right. The total exhaustion, which it had even felt like a sick stomach, sort of abated with this thing of also gratitude, feeling so good about somebody doing that for me. So that's what I mean by not completely trusting tiredness. And also finding out that if one sleeps too much, whatever too much is for this organism, you're more tired when you wake up than when you went to bed. It doesn't result in freshness, oversleeping too much. So find it out for yourself and let nobody program it for you. Watch this body and give it attention without judgment, learning freshly about ourselves, which sort of shatters old ideas. Shattering ideas is living right now in the fresh air, sunshine. And the paths through the fields, by the pond, along those marvelous hills which are changing color all the time. Every time you look at them, there's a different hue because there's life budding in the woods and on the meadows and in the air, full of birds. Can we listen like children on their first outing